everyone, David Aragona here with Craig Milkowski, and we are excited to be doing some stakes previews for DRF. We just did one of the Greenwood Cup at Parks, going a mile and a half on the dirt, and very different situation at Woodbine on Saturday for the race we're going to talk about next. Going 6.5 furlongs on the Tapeta surface is the Bold Venture Stakes. And Craig, a horse that I know that we've become very familiar with watching Woodbine is Pink Lloyd, who is just a perennial leader of the sprint division there, but he's still looking for his first victory in 2021. That said, he's probably going to be a heavy favorite anyway in this Bold Venture.
Yeah, he's a horse I've spent many a times trying to beat, and I'm sure that I'm going to do that here. For a while, I proved pretty unsuccessful as he just kept racking up those wins. He's won 26 out of 35, and that's including 3 losses in a row. So it was tough to find times to take him on before, but it's proven a little more fruitful lately. And I think this is a race where we probably have to take a stand against him here, too. At least I know I do.
Let's throw up the field for this Bold Venture. It's just 6 runners signed on. Actually, 2 runners from the Robert Tiller barn who trains Pink Lloyd and 2 runners from the Milkowski barn. So those 2 trainers have 2/3 of the field. And as you see, Pink Lloyd listed at 4 to 5 on the morning line. Seems like at the age of 9, maybe he's losing a step a little bit, though he's not facing the toughest field that he's met so far this year, as he's been beaten by some superior Milkowski runners in his recent starts like Super Stonehenge and Ride a Comet. I'm interested to see how they ride Pink Lloyd in this race, because he used to have more tactical speed, and it seems like recently he's lost some of that positional speed that he once possessed. So as we look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race, it shows him towards the middle of the pack, actually in 3rd place. But there are a couple of other runners in here who could be more forwardly placed than him, particularly his Robert Tiller trained stablemate Reconfigure. Craig, how do you see this race being run?
You know, this is an odd one in that the pace projector shows it's a race that's going to favor horses on or near the early lead. But in this case, it's the 1 and the 6 horse. And I don't really have any arguments about that. The 1 Magical Man, the 6 Reconfigure. But I'm not sure either one of those 2 are really horses I would consider contenders. So when that happens, I kind of tend to dismiss the pace projector if I don't think the horse is advantaged or going to really be involved at the finish. And so yeah, I think the pace projector paints a good picture, but I don't want either of those 2. But I'm not going to get over reliant thinking, well, Pink Floyd's the best horse up close, because it usually doesn't turn out that way in my experience.
Let's take a look at Pink Lloyd's last race when he was the beaten 3-1 shot in the Vigil. And as I said, Milkowski runners have really had his number in recent starts, and Super Stonehenge wins this race, beating Pink Lloyd for the 2nd time in a row. Actually, he's defeated him in both starts so far in 2021. Watching this race, I didn't like what his rider Hernandez did early, kind of ripping Pink Lloyd off the pace and just trying to get him farther back than I think Pink Lloyd really wants to be. He doesn't have the kind of turn of foot that he possessed as a younger horse, so he was just left with a little bit too much to do coming into the stretch of that race. Still, though, I would have liked to see Pink Lloyd finish off the race a little bit stronger than he did, and going 2 back to when he was first off the layoff in the Cartier. He just really had no answer for Super Stonehenge that day. Super Stonehenge, though, not in this race. Milkowski is electing to run 2 different horses, and I know one of them interests you a little bit, Craig.
Yeah, I was drawn to the outside, close to the outside anyway, and Lucky Curlin. He's a horse that showed a lot of talent as a 3-year-old. He won some nice races. He looked like a contender in some of the better races, but he kind of threw in a real stinker in the Ontario Derby. We didn't see him again the rest of the year for much of this year, but he returned as a first-time gelding in a 7-furlong allowance sprint on the grass. And I really liked what I saw that day. He got a 1:15 Timeform US speed figure, which is the best that he's ever run in his career. And he's a horse who's proven, I think, that he can handle synthetic. So I'm not overly concerned. The one big concern normally would be that pace projector, because cutting back even more in distance than when he showed his best form last year, he, is probably going to be towards the back of the pack. We have him shown back there with a couple other horses, but not really all that far behind Pink Lloyd. And part of it is I do like that I see, even though he was 9th last time, he was only 6 lengths back early, and it was a really fast pace, 1:45 Timeform US pace figure. So I like that he showed a little more early speed gelding. You don't necessarily see it in the pace figures, but if you use our adjusted fractions and things like that, it was as fast as he's run before. And as I mentioned, when the horses who figure to be up front aren't really contenders in the race, in my opinion, I tend to gravitate towards closers like him because they tend to stay in the race and be able to get there quicker. And I'm really looking for this one to have a lot more kick in the lane than Pink Lloyd.
Now, he's coming off a victory on the turf, as you said, with that career high 1:15 time formula speed figure. Are you somebody who really differentiates between turf and synthetic form? Or do you kind of figure that this horse can translate that turf race back to the synthetic because he has good races on it in the past? I try to view them as three different surfaces at times if a horse shows really improved synthetic form, but generally it does seem like synthetic is a little bit closer to turf, but it definitely is a third surface.
Yeah, I do treat him differently, but I use the speed figures. As a 3-year-old, I had highlighted his race where he won at 7 furlongs, closing into a slow pace. He tried the grass in a listed stake at Woodbine, and he ran a very similar speed figure to what he had been running in his previous races. I think at Marine Stakes, we show he ran a 109, he ran a 108. So for me, that tells me this is a horse who is very similar on both. The fact that he ran a 115, I would think he'd be able to replicate that or even better, given it's his second start off the layoff. But I do base that on the fact he has experience on the surface. If he didn't have those synthetic races, I would be a lot more skeptical.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that take. I think Lucky Curlin seems like a horse that can run on anything. Even his dirt races early in his career aren't that bad. But I went to the other Marcassi runner, the number 2, Looking to Strike, because even though he was beaten by his stablemate Lucky Curlin in that 7 furlong turf race last time, I think Looking to Strike is a horse that just isn't quite as proficient on the turf as he is on synthetic, kind of parsing through his form. I know it looks like maybe he's lost a steps now at age 6, but if you isolate his synthetic races, in particular his synthetic races on the Tapeta surface at Woodbine, it seems like that's the surface that he really prefers. Of his 6 career victories, 5 of them have been earned on synthetic. And going back to a race he ran going 6 furlongs at Woodbine last September 2020, he ran a really nice race to win by 4 lengths against an optional claiming field. I think that if that form he runs it here, it's going to translate well to this race because he showed some improved tactical speed. And if Emma Jane Wilson can get him a little bit closer to the pace, I think he could get the jump on a stablemate Lucky Curlin. But ultimately, at the end of the day, for me, it just came down to price. And we'll see how they do bet this race, Craig. I don't know how short of a price is too short for you on Lucky Curlin, but I just thought that Looking to Strike was going to be the bigger price of the 2 Marcassi horses. So I went in that direction.
Yeah, I've got no problem with him. Just with the one question I would ask, it seems like you have similar thinking of me in this race, at least, where you don't think the pace projector means a whole bunch because we both pick paces horses that are going to be towards the back of the field. Did you see it the same way?
Yeah, I mean, I gave a long look to that number 6 reconfigure who is likely to be on the lead. Just on paper, it seems like he's the one that's most often close to the pace, and the pace projector has him on the front end in that situation, favoring the early leader. It's just he's one of these horses that seems a little bit better on the turf than he is on the synthetic. So even if he has a pace advantage, I'm not quite sure that he's good enough to win going these conditions, the 6.5 furlongs on the Tapeta. But maybe we'll be proven wrong because the pace projector is often right. It just feels like that's more so the case on dirt than it is on synthetic. I think when you've got a really bunched field on synthetic, kind of like you do on turf, it just comes down to who has the best turn of foot through the lane.
Yeah, and I would say I'm a little leery always in these races when a horse like Reconfigure is shown on the lead. Not because I mean the algorithm goes by how fast they've run, but if you scroll through his PPs in 26 races, I think he's only been on the front end once or twice, and none of them were in races with particularly fast pace. So it tells me he's probably not a horse who really wants to be on the lead. So that's not even always a good thing.
So as you can see from our picks, both Craig and I are taking shots against the likely favorite Pink Lloyd, both going for Marcassi runners. Craig's going for the number 5, Lucky Curlin. I'm going for the number 2, Looking to Strike, in the bold venture at Woodbine on Saturday. Everybody remember, if you watched this video and liked it, make sure to like it on your YouTube below. Just hit that little thumbs up button and make sure also to subscribe to the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel to get other videos like this from Dan Illman, Mike Beer, Brad Free, and all the other video content that DRF has to offer. So thanks for watching this video. video, and good luck if you're playing on Saturday.